subscribe. It's now or never, boys and girls.
Once upon a time in a quaint little village, there lived a beautiful girl named Mona. She resided in a unique place that served as both a bar and her home, alongside her elder sibling. Mona's parents were no longer around. One day, Mona was strolling around, cruising on her motorbike without an engine. After a while, Mona took a break at the roadside. When she woke up, she discovered a beautiful girl her age, riding a horse. They then introduced themselves. The beautiful girl was named Tamsin, but let's just call her Tam. She was a wealthy girl living not far from Mona's house. Tam inquired about why Mona's motorcycle didn't have an engine, and Mona replied that someday she would buy one for $10. Mona had never crossed paths with Tam during her time in the village, because Tam only visited during school holidays. However, on that particular day, Tam was serving a suspension for a few months. Shortly after, they went their separate ways. Tam extended an invitation for Mona to drop by her house, but she declined, citing some matters she needed to attend to. Upon arriving home, Mona noticed her sibling disposing of leftover drinks. Curious, Mona asked why they were throwing away all the beverages. Her sibling replied, "Because this bar is going to be transformed into a church." Mona felt irritated as she observed her sibling's transformation. Her brother used to be very fond of her, but he was once a rough, brawling, and thieving individual. However, after his release from prison, he seemed to have had a divine revelation. He claimed to have directly spoken to God, and people actually believed it. Witnessing all of this only fueled Mona's frustration. One night, Mona was engaged in a sexual encounter with her boyfriend, Ricky, in a car. Mona and Ricky have a significant age gap, and Ricky is already married. After the intimate moment, Ricky unexpectedly asked for a breakup. Upon hearing this, Mona was furious and unleashed a tirade of insults towards Ricky. He then left Mona alone in that place, without a hint of guilt. The next day, Mona paid a visit to Tam's house. She was surprised by the size and grandeur of Tam's residence. On her way there, she encountered Tam's father, and she inquired about Tam's whereabouts. Tam's father assured her that Tam was indeed at home. Upon Mona's arrival at Tam's house, she took in the surroundings, noting the immense size of the house, yet it felt eerily quiet. Mona then headed to Tam's room and found Tam engrossed in playing a musical instrument. Upon noticing Mona standing at the doorway, Tam gestured for her to come in. Tam was still caught up in the rhythm of the music, momentarily disregarding Mona. Mona was mesmerized by Tam's performance, playing a musical instrument. After Tam finished playing, he warmly greeted Mona. Tam introduced the piece he had just played, titled The Swan. Mona responded that she also lives in a bar called Swan. Upon hearing that, Tam became interested in Mona's life. Mona then shared her story, telling Tam that she lives with her sibling. She also talked about the experiences of her sibling. Tam, in turn, shared about his family life. Tam has a younger sister named Sadie who passed away due to anorexia. Tam then invited Mona to tour the house while getting to know each other. Mona and Tam are lounging on the grass in Tam's backyard. Before they know it, both Mona and Tam doze off. When Mona wakes up, she finds herself alone in the yard, with no sign of Tam anywhere. Then, as Mona approached the house, she glanced through the window and saw Tam and his family having dinner. She noticed that Tam seemed unhappy at the dinner table. Choosing not to disturb Tam and his family, Mona decided to head back home. Upon Mona's return from Tam's house, she noticed her sibling engaging in a gathering with religious individuals. Irritated by the scene, Mona disrupted her sibling. She swiftly headed to her room, followed by her sibling. After that, her brother asked about Mona's intentions when she had disturbed him earlier. Mona then revealed her feelings, expressing that she missed the way her brother used to be. Her brother hugged Mona and uttered words infused with spirituality. However, hearing that, Mona became even more annoyed and told her brother to leave. The next day, Tam arrived at Mona's place in a taxi. He encountered Mona's sibling and inquired about her whereabouts. Tam then found Mona in the midst of tidying up the leftover drink glasses. Tam asked Mona what her brother was doing outside, and Mona replied that he was working on creating a quite large cross. Her brother planned to place the giant cross on the hill. Upon hearing this, they both burst into laughter. Tam's purpose in coming was to invite Mona to a certain place. They set off by taxi, and upon arrival, it turned out that Tam took Mona to a rather upscale residential area. Tam just told Mona that the place was where her father had an affair with his secretary. Tam had angrily confronted her father and his mistress. Seeing Tam upset and sad, Mona took a small statue from the place and threw it at Tam's father's car window that was parked nearby. They then ran away, laughing. After the incident, they returned to Tam's house. There, they were listening to a song. Tam then invited Mona to dance, making their bond even stronger. Mona decided to stay at Tam's house since Tam's parents wouldn't be returning for a few days due to their busy work schedules. They both went to sleep. The next day, Tam prepared breakfast for Mona and asked her what she planned to do afterward. Mona replied that she was going to the salon and would take her dog for a walk. However, Tam had a different plan in mind. Tam was going to buy a motorcycle for Mona. They then took the motorcycle to the repair shop. After that, the two of them went to the forest. Mona took Tam to a river in the woods, which was Mona's favorite spot. They had a great time, and without realizing it, Tam kissed Mona. Their bond grew stronger, and one day, Mona was trying on some clothes that Tam no longer wore. Tam also gave some clothes to Mona. Until the moment Mona was wearing a red dress, which belonged to Tam's younger sibling. She felt saddened seeing the dress being worn by Mona. Mona, also feeling the sadness, tried to comfort Tam. The next day, Mona and Tam were hanging out in the backyard, deeply enamored with each other. Tam then planted a sweet kiss on Mona. Later that night, as they were engaging in an intimate moment, Tam heard the sound of a car approaching from outside. Checking through the window, Tam spotted Mona's sibling arriving. They discreetly waited until Mona's sibling left, before resuming their evening. The next day, Tam asked Mona about her ex-boyfriend before they met. Mona then shared the story of her past with Ricky, her former boyfriend. Tam then instructed Mona to demonstrate how she and Ricky used to be intimate. Mona then climbed onto Tam's body and reenacted the scenario. After that, Mona and Tam were sunbathing on a hill when suddenly, Mona's older sibling approached them. The sibling intended to invite Mona to attend the installation ritual of a giant cross they had prepared. Mona declined the invitation, but Tam enthusiastically accepted it. Mona reluctantly went along with Tam's decision. They both then followed the ritual. After the installation of the giant cross, people recited prayers, while Tam and Mona just listened. Mona realized something as Tam, who had been paying attention to Mona's brother, seemed eager to approach him. Mona felt a twinge of jealousy seeing Tam wanting to get closer to her brother. The next day, Mona and Tam entered Sadie's room, Tam's younger sister. They then discovered a package of psychedelic mushrooms. They decided to consume the mushrooms. After eating them, they headed to a bar and started dancing, influenced by the mushrooms. Eventually, they caused a commotion in the bar. Shortly after, security kicked them out. On that evening, they were at Mona's favorite river. They then exchanged vows, promising to love each other until death. The next day, they returned to Tam's house. Not long after, Mona's brother came again. He was looking for Mona, but Tam had an idea: she would play with Mona's brother. Tam then opened the door. She then told Mona's older brother to sit down. Tam then launched her action. She started teasing Mona's brother, Tam intended to prove that Mona's brother was just a fraud under the guise of religion. Mona's brother was carried away by Tam's game. Mona had been listening to their conversation secretly. When the two of them almost kissed, Tam stopped that and laughed.
Oh, you're too easy, you fucking fraud.
Mona's older brother, feeling infuriated by the treatment he received, then choked Tam. Following that, Mona's brother left the house. Before departing, Mona emerged from her hiding spot. Her brother immediately dragged Mona back home, and at that moment, Tam could only watch helplessly. After Mona and her brother arrived, he confined her to her room. Mona was not okay with being treated like that, so she decided to find a cloth with the intention of hanging herself. Meanwhile, her brother, busy with his religious friends, was praying for Mona. Hearing strange sounds from Mona's room, her brother checked on her and found her hanging herself.
I am the Antichrist now.
Quickly, her older brother untied Mona's necktie, thinking that Mona had passed away. Little did he know, Mona was just pretending. Growing increasingly frustrated, her brother began to hit and kick Mona. Her brother descended once again to continue the prayer together with the others. However, due to the unsettling events involving Mona and Tam that had been bothering the brother's mind, Mona's brother reverted to their former brash and quarrelsome character. He disbanded the gathering and expelled those who were present at that moment. Mona grabbed all her stuff, intending to leave her brother alone. Her brother just looked resignedly at her. Mona then approached Tam, planning to stay at Tam's house. Mona was taken aback by the situation at Tam's house. She saw Tam's father reading the newspaper, then went to Tam's room and found Tam's mother tidying up clothes. Mona approached Tam and asked quietly, "Where are you going?" Tam replied that he was going back to school. Mona felt really sad to hear that. She then went downstairs and left Tam in the room. Before leaving, she saw Tam's younger sibling. All this time, Mona had been deceived by Tam and used only for her advantage. Mona then headed to her favorite river, lamenting her unfortunate fate. Shortly after, Tam approached Mona and apologized. Suddenly, Mona descended into the river, followed by Tam. They then shared a kiss, but Mona proceeded to strangle Tam and submerged her. She intended to kill Tam for deceiving her, but she reconsidered and abandoned Tam in the river. Here's the storyline of the film that we can share with you. We hope you enjoy this video. Thank you.